Corporate Services Committee meeting to order. The first item, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as has been our practice during this global pandemic, I'm just looking for a motion to enable us to hold this meeting electronically without the members of the public present.
Thank you. It's a mover and a second. It's moved by Director Facio, seconded by Director Popov. All in favor, opposed if any, the item carries. Next item.
Looking for approval of the agenda and late items.
Thank you. It's moved by Director Raymond and seconded by Director Dickey. Any questions on the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor, opposed if any, the item carries. Next item.
Item 3.1, we have the draft Regional and Corporate Services Committee meeting minutes of December 8th, 2020.
Thank you. And that is moved by Director Ross, seconded by Director Facio. All in favor, opposed if any, the item carries. Next item.
Item 4.1, it is an information item. It's the 2021 request for board and committee workshops. And just as a little bit of background, over the past year or so, staff have received a number of requests, both from the East Committee and from the full board, as well as from staff about items that might be well served in a workshop setting. Obviously, with the schedules of all of our 23 board members, as well as staff availability and what have you, we are presenting some options for the board where we can incorporate some of these items as presentations during the regular meetings. But some items are a little bit heftier and would require perhaps a half day or a full day workshop in some cases. So while most of these items I think really pertain more to the East Committee, there were a few that would affect the full board. So hence why it's on the RAC's agenda.
Okay, and so this is an information item, but any questions or feedback from any RAC's members? Director Ross, was that a hand or no? Okay, just wanted to check. Okay, seeing none. Next item, and thank you for being flexible in that. I know we're trying to accommodate as best we can, but I understand that planning for everybody is not always the easiest thing to do. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So next item is 5.1.1. Again, this is an information item, but it is our invasive weed control program summary for 2020 and 2021 plans. And I believe that we have Lance Lilly on the line if the staff have any questions or if the board has any questions.
Okay, and were there any questions on this? Director Engar.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. I noticed that I believe it's 2020, they're under contract to, I'm afraid the name eludes me, but I'm just wondering if the contract is, if the same organization, they're under contract now with the FVRD to do weed control.
Mr. Lilly.
Yes, through the chair. Last year, we started a contract. I believe it's either a 2-year contract or a 3-year contract. I'll have to check. And so we're continuing on this year with the Fraser Valley Invasive Species Society.
And just to follow up, they mentioned a phone number and a contact email. Is that the appropriate way to get in touch with them, or should we still go through staff and have you guys do it?
There really is an option. It's probably easiest just to go through them because then they can contact their contractors and know who's in the field, but we still operate our weeds@fvrd.ca email address. And we can forward those or respond as well.
Very good, thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I've got Director Dickey, and then I'll go to you, Director Pranger. Go ahead, Director Dickey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a general question, maybe through to Mr. Lilly. We have all these invasive species that have been introduced into British Columbia. And for instance, near where we live, we have the yellow flag iris, which there appear to be about 1 million of them, and different attempts have been made to try and control them. Is there a point in time when you just throw in the towel and say, this is now a species that is going to stay in the province?
That's a very good question, and I do think there are some weeds, invasive blackberries. It's just become, pervasive. It's everywhere. I don't think we're there yet with yellow flag iris. Hopefully it can still get control. And there was a recent announcement by the province to provide more funding to invasive species council groups to do more invasive weed control. We don't quite know how that's allocated, but we, and I know the local groups have been pushing to do more work with yellow flag iris.
Thank you, Mr. Lilly. Director Pranger, you had a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Mr. Lilly. Does the district pay into this function, or how exactly does this work? And I didn't see any work in our district on your list.
Thank you, Director Pranger, and through the chair. This is a sub-regional service. And so it does the city of Chilliwack, city of Abbotsford, and several electoral areas participate. So far, District of Kent is not a member. The funding is partially through tax requisition through the service areas, as well as we get annual grants from the province.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Lilly? Don't see any, so let's move on to the next item.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to advise you before we move to the next item that Director Raymond had to leave the meeting. Apparently he lost power at the outset of the meeting. So I have encouraged him to try to call in if he can, but I just wanted you to be aware that he had to drop off the phone.
I said.
No, and my power has been surging off and on as well since Mr. Raymond left, Director Raymond. So he's causing me a problem.
Actually, I'm hearing the same thing from one of our staff that's based in Abbotsford at the moment as well. So it seems like the weather might be causing us some troubles.
Okay, well, we'll get through this.
Item 5.2.1, we have the 2020 FVRD Social and Affordable Housing Inventory Update. There's a motion for your consideration and staff are available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Mover in a second. It's moved by Director Blue, seconded by Director Facio. Any questions on this item? Seeing none, all in favor, opposed if any, the item carries. Next item.
Moving down to reports by directors, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Directors, that'd be your opportunity.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Director Pranger.
Thank you. Given the announcement yesterday, it seems like it's a long ways out, but the transit announcement, maybe our staff, I'm sure they will be, on top of this in case we can get some of those items that we've long been advocating for on the books and getting them off the books and on the road.
Yes, you're referring to the $15 billion. Is that it from the federal
Yes.
government? That doesn't
Yes.
That doesn't start for another 6 years or something, or 5 years. Yes,
6 years is a long time.
that's true. No, I agree though. It does perhaps give us an opportunity to organize, and perhaps the Fraser Valley Transit Study will be completed by then and identify some key priorities. I never thought I'd ever hear the words $15 billion. Isn't a lot of money when it's spread out over the whole country, but I can't believe it's coming out of my mouth. But it is when you consider the price of some of these large transit expansions, I think about $6 or $7 billion is the cost of some of the expansion plans in Metro Vancouver and Translink area. So it's quite extensive. But we should definitely get our priorities out there. Absolutely. Any other reports from board members? Okay, seeing none. Next item.
Next item is public question period for items relevant to the agenda. As always, we have encouraged the public to submit email questions to info@frd.ca before 1 p.m. on February the 10th. We've also encouraged members of the public to join us on the line. And as I understand it, we did have a member of the public on the line, but they have since left. So we would then move down to resolution to close the meeting, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. It's moved by Director Facio, seconded by Director Stobart. All in favor, opposed if any, item carries.